The video opens with a sweeping shot of a grand estate tucked against rolling hills, its tall windows glowing in the early morning light. A voice speaks over the scene, drawing viewers in with a question that demands attention. What if you had everything money could buy, luxury, comfort, success, but were trapped in your own body for 20 long years? What if hope was gone, until one unexpected person walked through your door and did what no doctor could? This is the story of a miracle. Inside the mansion, a woman sits near the fireplace in a polished wheelchair. Her name is Clarissa Harlow. At 51, she is striking, her blonde hair pulled into a soft bun, her clothes tailored and tasteful, but her eyes carry a sadness no wealth can disguise. 2 decades earlier, a horrific car accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. Since then, Clarissa has lived surrounded by staff and specialists, yet each day feels like a reminder of what she lost. She remembers vividly the years before, the joy of chasing her children in the yard, the freedom of long walks along the beach, the thrill of dancing with her late husband in the parlor. Now, she is confined to stillness, watching the world through glass while others move freely. Her son, Trevor, is a corporate consultant in New York, always rushing, always promising to visit soon. Her daughter, Melanie, is a graduate student in Boston, buried in research and deadlines. They call, they send gifts, but life has pulled them forward while Clarissa's feels frozen in place. The house bustles with activity, nurses, assistants, cooks, but still feels hollow. For years, her trusted housekeeper, Mrs. Whitford, kept the estate running and offered companionship. When Mrs. Whitford finally retires after nearly 3 decades, Clarissa feels an ache deeper than she expected. I don't just need someone to manage the house, Clarissa tells Trevor over a video call. I need someone who can bring life back into these walls. Do you understand? Trevor promises to find a suitable replacement, but Clarissa insists on being present for the interviews. She craves control over something, anything, in her life. A week later, the heavy oak doors swing open to reveal a woman named Althea Morgan. She is 32, with deep brown skin and a calm, steady presence. Her posture is upright, her eyes clear, her demeanor unpretentious. Althea has spent years working as a caregiver and house assistant in smaller homes, often for families who struggled to make ends meet. Stepping into the Harlow estate feels overwhelming, but she doesn't falter. Clarissa studies her carefully. Most candidates arrive rehearsed, their words polished. But Althea simply says, I know how to keep order in a house. But more than that, I know how to bring peace to a home. Clarissa feels something stir inside her, a sense she hasn't felt from any of the others. Without hesitation, she says, you'll do. From the very beginning, Althea is different. She doesn't hover with pity. She doesn't treat Clarissa like porcelain. Instead, she engages her as if the chair isn't there at all. She asks what music Clarissa likes during meals, tells her funny stories about her younger brother back in Georgia, and laughs openly in a way that makes the mansion feel warmer. Even the nurses notice the change. Clarissa begins smiling more, speaking more, even showing interest in meals again. It's like she's waking up, one of them murmurs. One afternoon, while tending to the sunroom, Althea notices a dusty harp in the corner. Does anyone play this? She asks. Clarissa looks at it with a bittersweet smile. I did, once. Before the accident. Althea brushes off the dust, plucks a few hesitant strings, and then begins to play. The melody is simple but heartfelt, filling the room with a gentle sound that lingers like sunlight on the skin. Clarissa closes her eyes, memories crashing over her. The laughter of her children dancing around her, her husband's applause after her recitals, the sense of being alive. Tears slip down her cheeks. When the last note fades, she whispers, You've given me back something I thought was gone forever. Later that evening, as Althea wheels her to her room, Clarissa asks softly, Why do you do this kind of work? You're bright. You could have chosen so many other paths. Althea's smile is quiet but certain. Because not every home just needs cleaning. Some need healing. And sometimes, people do too. The words settle deep into Clarissa's heart. For the first time in years, she feels seen, not as a patient or as a wealthy recluse, but as a woman who still matters. Still, the doctor's verdict has haunted her: she will never walk again. Clarissa has carried that truth like a chain for 2 decades. But Althea refuses to see chains. One crisp autumn morning, Althea wheels Clarissa out to the terrace, the orange leaves swirling across the stone floor. She kneels beside her and says, "Do you really believe you'll never walk again? Or have you only believed what they told you?" Clarissa looks down, her throat tight. "It doesn't matter what I believe. The facts are the facts." Althea's eyes shine with conviction. Sometimes belief is the first step toward a different reality. Clarissa wants to dismiss it. She wants to cling to what she's always been told. Yet for the first time in 20 years, her chest stirs with something dangerous, something unfamiliar. Hope. The days after Althea's question linger heavily in Clarissa's mind. She tries to dismiss it as wishful thinking, the kind of naive optimism she has heard before. But Althea is different. She doesn't toss words carelessly. Everything she says seems grounded in quiet conviction. Clarissa spends nights staring at the ceiling, remembering the verdict of every doctor she has ever visited. Permanent damage. No possibility of recovery. Accept life as it is. She repeated those phrases to herself for years until they became her reality. And yet, Althea's voice now threads through them, whispering of belief, whispering of possibility. One afternoon, Althea wheels her to the garden. The autumn air is cool, carrying the scent of damp leaves and pine. Clarissa watches as Althea kneels to trim a hedge, moving with care, humming softly to herself. "What are you humming?" Clarissa asks. "It's an old hymn my grandmother sang when life felt impossible," Althea replies. She rises, wiping her hands on her apron. "She used to tell me, don't let the world convince you something can't be done just because they haven't seen it yet." The words press into Clarissa's soul. For so long she has lived defined by impossibility. That night, Clarissa calls her daughter. "Elise," she says softly over the phone, do you think I could ever walk again?" There is a pause, the kind of pause filled with careful hesitation. "Mom," Elise finally says, "the doctors were clear. I don't want you to get hurt clinging to false hope." "I know," Clarissa whispers. I wonder." Elisa's tone gentles. "I want you to be happy, Mom. However that looks." After the call, Clarissa sits quietly, staring at her legs. They feel distant, foreign, like they belong to another life. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a flicker of yearning rises. The next morning, Althea finds Clarissa by the window, lost in thought. "Would you try something for me?" Althea asks. Clarissa looks wary. "What do you mean?" "Not walking." "Not yet. Just trust me." Althea wheels her toward the physical therapy room, a space Clarissa has avoided for years. Machines and bars stand waiting, reminders of failed attempts and exhausted hope. Her chest tightens. "I can't," Clarissa whispers, her voice trembling. "I've tried before. It only hurts more." Althea kneels beside her, her gaze steady. "I'm not asking you to do it alone. I'll be right here. All I want is for you to believe, even for a moment, that it's possible." Clarissa's heart pounds. Slowly, with Althea's guidance, she places her hands on the parallel bars. Her arms tremble with the effort of supporting herself. Her legs remain still, but the act of trying feels like defiance against everything she has accepted. Sweat beads on her forehead, but she doesn't stop. When she finally sinks back into the chair, her breath is ragged, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It's useless," she gasps. "No," Althea says firmly, gripping her hands. "That was strength. That was courage. Don't ever call it useless. For the first time in years, Clarissa doesn't feel like a patient. She feels like a fighter. Over the following weeks, Althea continues to encourage small steps, not literal ones, but symbolic. Stretching her arms, shifting her weight, sitting up taller. Each time, Clarissa protests, but each time, Althea's steady presence carries her through. Slowly, Clarissa begins to look forward to their sessions, even though they leave her drained. The staff begins to notice. She's different, one nurse remarks. More alive. More determined. Even Trevor, during his next visit, sees the spark. "Mom," he says, astonished, "I haven't seen you like this in years." Clarissa doesn't tell him the truth, that Althea has planted hope where none remained. One stormy evening, as rain lashes against the windows, Clarissa sits by the fire. Althea is reading aloud from a worn book of poetry. The words seem to hang in the air, soft and comforting. Clarissa turns to her suddenly. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asks, her voice breaking. "Why do you believe when no one else does?" Althea closes the book gently. "Because I've seen too many people give up before the miracle came. My father, he was told he'd never work again after his injury. Doctors said his body was finished. But he fought. He walked again. Not perfectly, not easily, but he walked. I carry that with me. If he could do it, why not you?" Clarissa's chest tightens. For so long, she has clung to doctors' words like scripture. But Althea's story is real, personal. A seed takes root. And with it, the fragile, terrifying thought that maybe, just maybe, her story isn't finished yet. The following days are filled with cautious effort. Each morning, Althea wheels Clarissa to the therapy room. At first, they only focus on upper body strength, lifting, pulling, breathing steadily. Then, slowly, Althea introduces small shifts, encouraging Clarissa to focus on her legs, even though they feel like dead weight. "You don't have to move mountains today," Althea tells her gently. "Just pebbles." Clarissa laughs at the phrase, but each time she grips the bars, she remembers it. Pebbles. Small victories. Trevor and Elise remain skeptical. Trevor warns, "Mom, don't let someone fill your head with false promises." Elise urges caution, too. But Clarissa surprises them both with her answer. For once, she says firmly, "I want to believe in more than what doctors say. I want to believe in me." The weeks stretch into months. The once silent mansion now echoes with sounds of determination, Clarissa's strained breaths, Althea's steady encouragement, the rhythmic creak of therapy equipment. Clarissa's body grows stronger, but more importantly, her spirit begins to lift. Then, one morning in late spring, everything changes. Sunlight spills across the therapy room as Althea helps Clarissa into place at the parallel bars. Clarissa's hands grip the cool metal, her arms trembling slightly. Today feels different, heavier, more electric. Althea kneels beside her. "Close your eyes," she says softly. "Picture yourself standing. Picture the ground beneath your feet, holding you up." Clarissa obeys. For a moment, she is back in her youth, running barefoot through the grass, her children chasing behind her, laughter ringing in the air. The memory surges through her like fire. Now, Althea whispers, "Try." Clarissa tightens her grip, her body straining. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then, a flicker. The faintest movement in her right leg. Clarissa gasps, her eyes flying open. "Did you see that?" she cries, her voice trembling. "I saw it," Althea says, tears brimming in her eyes. "Do it again." This time, Clarissa focuses all her will. Slowly, painfully, her leg shifts, pressing against the ground. The movement is small, but it is real. The room fills with the sound of her sobbing, but these are not tears of despair. They are tears of life returning, of chains breaking. Over the following weeks, the flicker becomes motion. With Althea's unwavering support, Clarissa learns to bear weight, then to rise. The day she stands, fully upright, she clings to the bars, shaking, crying, laughing all at once. When Trevor and Elise arrive to visit, they expect the same routine, quiet meals, conversations from the wheelchair. But this time, when they walk into the therapy room, their mother is there, gripping the bars, her legs trembling beneath her, her face radiant with effort. "Mom." Elise whispers, her hands flying to her mouth. Clarissa's voice shakes but is filled with triumph. "Watch me." With Althea steadying her side, Clarissa takes one halting, staggering step forward. The sound of her children's cries fills the room, echoing off the walls. Trevor rushes to her side, Elise falls to her knees, and together they hold her as if afraid she'll vanish. It is not perfect. It is not easy. But it is real. Clarissa, who had not walked for 20 years, has taken her first step again. Word of her progress spreads quietly among friends and neighbors, whispered as though it were impossible to believe. But in the Harlow home, the impossible has become reality. In the weeks that follow, Clarissa continues her therapy, step by step, pebble by pebble. She knows she may never run again, never dance with effortless grace, but she no longer sees herself as broken. She has proven to herself, and to her children, that hope is never wasted. One evening, as the sun sets over the hills, Clarissa sits with Althea on the terrace. The air is warm, fireflies beginning to glow in the dusk. "You've given me back my life," Clarissa says quietly, her eyes shining. Althea shakes her head, smiling. "No, Miss Harlow. You gave it back to yourself. I just reminded you it was still there." The camera lingers on Clarissa's face, her expression radiant with newfound strength, as the narrator's voice returns to close the story. She was a woman who had wealth, success, and status, but for 20 years, she lived in silence, believing her life was over. Then, when all hope seemed lost, one unexpected presence walked into her world and sparked a miracle. What does this story teach us? That sometimes, healing doesn't come from medicine or money. Sometimes, it comes from belief, from compassion, from the courage to try again. Clarissa Harlow walked again, because someone believed she could. And maybe, just maybe, so can you. The screen fades to black, the final image of Clarissa taking another step echoing in the minds of viewers long after the story ends.